Hey guys, welcome back to the Captain's Corner Pod. I am Ray Russell, and Mr. Nick Masci going to join us here. Well, actually, Captain Nick Masci. I don't want to get that wrong again. Last time, he made me swab the poop deck. We don't want to have that happen again. Ladies and gentlemen, let's ask that ever-important question. What's happening, Captain?
You will always be lead deck on my boat, Rugged Ray Russell. Thank you so much for opening up another episode of the Captain's Corner Podcast, heard exclusively on the Russellcopia Podcast Network. I feel like it's been forever since we've been in touch, but in reality, it's only been a couple of weeks since we did the Portland Wrestling Expo preview, last minute preview edition right before we went live on the 22nd. But always good to be reunited, and it feels so good, as the song says.
Oh, I was going to sing it for you, Nick, but we'll just keep going. We don't want to have everybody tune out yet.
Oh, stop it.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, I was not able to attend, but I was very envious. I did go look at the pictures you posted and just looking at some of the other things other people posted on Facebook specifically. And I guess now it's as good a time as any. Tell everybody how it went from your end. How did things go for you?
Well, in summation, it went 100% better than I even could have dreamed. And
awesome.
I want to bring it back, and I know we've talked about it in the past. The idea happened on a long car trip. I was by myself and just kind of brainstorming in between listening to my 80s music and podcasts. I have my brainstorming sessions where, I might plan for the week, or I might just run some things through that are going on in my life. And, a big part of my life for the last 5 years, and even before that, is Captain's Corner. So came up with the idea that I wanted to run a convention either in Portland, Oregon, or San Antonio, Texas. I've been fortunate to work with the Grappler before. And when I brought up the idea to run a show in Portland, Oregon, I knew that 2025 was going to be 100 years of the Owens family presenting wrestling in Portland. I brought this up in very early 2024, February 2024. So when I told the Grappler that, he said it was a no-brainer. He said, San Antonio is amazing, but you want to run Portland. When Len gave me that kind of thumbs up and he had that much confidence in it, that's what gave me confidence, and away we were. But the thing about that, and I kind of talked about it a little bit on a post I made on Facebook over the last couple of weeks, but I'll go into a little more detail here, is that even though I've run shows in, probably a dozen different states, I haven't run any shows, all the way out west. I've never even visited the state of Oregon. So running a show out there, I knew it was going to lead to, I don't want to say problems, but it was going to lead to obstacles that are harder to overcome when I can't just drive quickly to see them or put out a fire, so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. So I was lucky between Lenny hooked me up with a couple of good people locally. And then honestly, from January 2024 until the expo ended, and then, even in the days that followed, everyone from the Pacific Northwest was they opened up their arms to Captain's Corner, and they were about as genuine of a fan base, genuine of a group of people that were excited. I had people thank me, but the kind of thanks, and it's not thank you for buying me lunch or thank you for, spending some time with me. It was like, thank you for doing this. We needed this. And these are wrestling fans of, 30, 40, 50 years that had always wanted to have their own show. And I can't count on two hands how many came up to me during, on the 21st, but then specifically on the day of the expo, February 22nd, to just thank me. That was a really cool moment because at my core, like I know your core, Ray, we work in and around this business right now, but we're wrestling fans. And I remember the first Portland wrestling match I saw. And the more I learned about, the more fascinated I became with the territory. So to be able to run a show out there and bring guys like Mike Miller and, Moondog Moretti and John Nord that hadn't been back to Portland. In some cases, I don't think Nord had been back there since the WWF went there in 1992. Wow. So we're talking legitimately 30 plus years. Yeah. And then the local guys like Mike Miller got a reaction akin to, a star on TV today, like from everyone that saw him, because he hadn't been back in the Northwest about 8 or 9 years. And he had such a great career out there. So between the wrestlers that were happy to be going back to the territory that a lot of them held closest to their heart, and the fans that showed up in droves and supported all of those wrestlers. We were very fortunate in that. Shout out to Joe V from Fox 12. He helped Grappler, of course, write his autobiography, Memoirs of a Masked Man. Joe V was able to, he had one of his producers interview me. It was a virtual interview, and they put it on the website, but they were able to splice in clips and plug the expo in the days leading up on the morning show, on the Fox 12 morning show. And Joe V did such an amazing job, not only hosting our Portland Wrestling History panel, but also hosting the Grapplers one-man show that Friday night. Oh, okay. We also had our buddies at iHeartRadio, one of the Portland affiliates, reach out. They had us on the Thursday drive time, so we're on morning radio that to everyone within 50, 60, 75 miles. I don't know how far the coverage was, but and I, like I said, I promote shows everywhere in my neck of the woods, which is New England, in the tri-state area. In Florida, of course, which we'll talk about later, but the local media, the local fans, and just the local wrestling community, they embraced the Portland Wrestling Expo in Captain's Corner with open arms. And before the weekend was over, I was already planning a second expo in my mind. So the weekend went absolutely fantastic. And to give everyone kind of a rundown of what happened, I know we're going to have a guest that was involved in the expo. Is Friday night, we've had him on a couple times. The Grappler, our friend Len Denton, the Grappler, he had his one-man show, and he had a surprise guest, Ray. And that guest was longtime rival Top Gun. And who we've also had on here, we may be having on very soon. Maybe. So, and they were just kind of, shooting the breeze, telling stories, and everyone that was sitting there, they did it from the ring. So everyone that was sitting ringside was just captivated by those guys because of how good of a story they told in the ring that night about all the stories they were telling in the ring 30 years before that. And that when the buzz on that Friday, I realized that Saturday was going to be big. Now, here's the funny thing about Saturday, Ray, is that, in the conventions and shows that I've run, typically people, if you have a 10 o'clock start time, people start lining up around 9 o'clock. And, after 11 o'clock, 11:15, if it's a 10 o'clock start time, the majority of people are in, and then you'll get some stragglers, right? Mm-hmm. So this was a completely different situation in the sense that I knew how many tickets we sold. We had 300 people there on Saturday. Wow. And I knew how many tickets that we sold. So there was about 55, 60, 65 people that lined up. About 9:30, 9:45, I'm like, this is not right. We had sold over 200 tickets pre-sold. And I'm like, this is like less than a third of the tickets pre-sold. But I didn't really put too much thought into it. So everyone came in, and then about 15 minutes later, there'd be another group of 60 to 65 people ready to come in. And then about 20 minutes later, another group of 60 to 65 people had found their way in the room. And I've never seen this before, Ray. There were people buying tickets. The convention itself was from 10 to 3. There were people buying tickets until 1:45, like coming up every few minutes. And normally people like to get to the show early, and then they kind of leave. But people were coming, and whatever time they were coming, they were then staying the rest of the afternoon. So the people that got there at 9 o'clock, they stayed through the convention. They stayed for the Portland Wrestling History panel. They stayed afterwards. Some of them went to the bar and bought the Grappler, bought Top Gun and drink. So nice. The crowd was there for the duration, and there was a staggered start for a lot of them. But once they got there, we had a great setup in the ballroom. They gave us about 4 banquet-sized tables outside the ballroom with beverages for people that maybe needed to sit down for a little bit, get a snack or two, because it was a pretty long day. But once everyone got to the Holiday Inn Portland Airport, they were there. And the buzz, I wish I had spent, I was down some help, so I was at the door for almost the entire day. But every time I went into the room, I felt that buzz that you feel, like, whether it's like vibrations or it's just people chatting or people moving. It's just, I can't describe it, but I'm sure, when you've been in big crowds, there's buzzes. And this being in, a ballroom, which was a good sized ballroom, but not a huge ballroom, a lot of the energy was contained. So you felt it. And it was the Portland 100 panel. Unfortunately, once again, I haven't listened to it myself. Joe V hosted it, and it was only supposed to go for about 90 minutes, and it went for over 2 hours, and it could have probably went for another hour. It could have been a standalone event. It was that well received. There were that many questions. The stories were that deep. I know we're going to have details in the weeks to come, and I'm sure they'll be released here in the WrestleCopia Podcast Network about how people can stream. We had cameras there to professionally shoot the panel. And I want to see it because, between Sheepherder Luke starting there, and I forgot if it was 78 or 79, all the way to C.W. Bergstrom, who was the last territory champion when the territory closed down in 1992. You have literally almost 15 years of Portland wrestling in that panel and then if you add up the individual years, now you're talking 50, 55, 60 plus years between all the guys and the time spent in the territory. So it was a special afternoon. I was able to kind of take it and appreciate it quite a few times. Of course, it's a hectic weekend. I know you were at Glory Days GrappleCon in last April, Ray, and it's me and then whoever else is running the convention. We usually don't take any kind of seats until later that night. And then, it's just a brief seat then because you have so much adrenaline, you get a second wind. It was such a great day. Even though I was sleep deprived, the time zone change really took it out of me. I didn't feel it until I got back home in New England. And that's when it was like, oh, my body is done. But there will be a second Portland Wrestling Expo. And,
right.
Of course, Ray, if it works out, love to have you there, and details found on the Captain's Corner podcast. But just a special event, a special weekend, and it has a place in my heart and will have a place in my heart for the rest of my life.
Well, I'll be looking into the information for that. I really can't explain to myself why I could miss the second one. Unfortunately, things happen in the real world here, and we can't always do what we want to do, especially when we have 8 children. But
I get it, Ray. You could have ran a territory out of your house with. I could
have. I'm in the dungeon right now recording. So
there you go. That's a pretty good steal.
Sell it. That's an amazing weekend. It sounds like, man, and of course it started Friday night, and it absolutely sounded like it continued all day Saturday. And for the panel to go that much longer than even what you guys announced is just phenomenal. You give everybody the most bang for their buck, literally. I mean, they certainly got their money's worth, it sounds like, but more than on top of that, I'm looking forward to the video coming out. Nice teaser there. So be on the lookout for that, guys. Stay tuned to that on the Captain's Corner social media. Some information coming, I have no doubt. And I'm sure we'll report it here as well in the weeks to come. But there's just that's a lot of stuff to take in. All the talent that wound up coming to the event. Man, you were the promoter of the event, so I hate to put you on the spot, but what was a couple of your favorite memories? Who entertained you the most out of all the talent that was there?
Ooh, entertained me. Well, you know what? It's got to start with the one and only John Nord.
I figured that was coming.
I've worked and a lot of the guys on the show, between Top Gun, between the Grappler, between Nord, I've worked with a lot of these guys 3, 4, 5, 6 times. So, and you're spending weekends with them, in some cases driving hundreds of miles. So there's a lot of times when you may not always connect with talent, but then there's times you do. And all 3 of those guys are talents that I've connected with. Nord, of course, is the most boisterous of them all. So he came in, and I had next time for the Portland Wrestling Expo, I will not do as many virtual signings outside of the convention that I did this time. Because the Lance Von Erich virtual sign became a private signing. The details of that will one day be found in the Captain's Corner book, whenever that's written. But we between that and of course Friday we had Jordan Blue who kicked us off. She's a fantastic wrestler from the San Francisco area, and then Nord. And from the moment Nord walks into the hotel room, the suite, and he's ready to go on, Nord is on. He brings just such a great energy. And he knows that, it's me, John, and then 2 of my team members, Bear, and then Cabana Boy Petey. And so it's the 4 of us in the room. But Nord knows that through Facebook and then streaming that a lot more people are watching it. and then people want to see Nord on, and he's just always on. As I know you've heard before. Now, have you had a chance to meet John yet, Ray, or no?
No, not in person. No,
Okay.
I've seen plenty of him outside of the business though to kind of get an idea of his personality.
Just such a great storyteller. What an amazing memory too. Like a lot of the guys, maybe they don't always remember the stories as clear, based on what they were doing for a living, or maybe some extracurricular activities they were doing outside the living. But John has such a memory, and he remembers certain stories. And every time I hang out with him and work with him, he's got another story that I haven't heard before. So from the virtual signing, we went right down to, Lenny's, the Grapplers one-man show. And John was there. John was exhausted at that point, but the Grappler is one of his best friends in life. He stayed there from start to finish, supporting him, heckling him a little, but really there to support him. So that was really cool. And then just someone like the Grappler who was there the entire weekend. He picked me up. I didn't get a rental car when I landed in Portland. I was going to stay local, and then the opportunity came up thanks to our friend Casey at one of the iHeartRadio stations, and we had opportunity to go on the drive radio. So Lenny, the Grappler's like, "I'll pick you up, Nick." I said, "Okay, let's do it." And he was there with me. We could have had 3 or 4 TV and radio appearances that weekend. He would have made them all. He would have, been as excited and as outgoing for all of the appearances as he was for this one. So the Grappler was such a huge part of the first Portland Wrestling Expo. And then I can't forget about Top Gun. Our buddy Top Gun. We've had a lot of the guys on the Captain's Corner podcast, but Top Gun, of course. I believe he was the second guest on. And he was involved in everything the weekend, too. He was the surprise guest for the one-man show. Of course, a big part of the convention, the meet and greet on Saturday afternoon. And then also, a huge part of the Portland 100 panel on after the convention. So I would say, and it's hard to pick favorites, but those 3 guys, John Nord, the Grappler, and Top Gun were just such a huge part to the weekend going as well as it did. And I met him once before at the CAC a bunch of years back. A lot of people may or may not know I helped Scott Casey write his book One Last Ride, and Scott was asked to induct Harlem Heat to the CAC. So Scott had told me about it, and it's like, oh, I got to go out there to support Scott. We're right in the writing process, and I couldn't believe that someone was it meant so much to Scott that he was asked by Harlem Heat to go out there. And I couldn't believe the family atmosphere of the CAC. It was a good buzz. All the wrestlers, maybe not seeing each other for 20, 30, 40 years. Just a big family reunion. But one of the guys I met out there was Moondog Moretti. And it was my first time meeting him because Moondog's mostly a West Coast or, a Canadian guy. Spent a lot of time in Vancouver. Of course, grew up in the California area. Spent a lot of time in Portland too. But I remember meeting him, and of everyone I met that week and that I hadn't met before, Moondog Moretti was probably the nicest and most genuine of everyone. And when this event came up, just because he's all the way out on the West Coast, and a lot of his career was, of course, out on the West Coast, I don't always have the opportunities to maybe work with someone like a Moondog Moretti if I'm running a show in Springfield, or if I'm running a show in Florida. But I knew he was someone that I wanted to have on the show. And throughout the entire process, whether going up over the logistics of the appearance, whether, just talking to him, getting him checked into the hotel. And then, of course, when he left the hotel on Saturday night, just someone else, just such a warm, genuine person. I'll say this, this needs to be pointed out too, that the crew, the main crew, let's throw Ricky Santana in there, Mike Miller, Bergstrom, Luke, Sheepherder Luke. That main group of guys, I don't think I've ever seen a group of guys at a convention spend as much time with each other outside of the convention. You'd look over and they'd be grabbing breakfast together. Then, having a couple of beers together. Then just shooting the shit in the lobby together. it was like a family reunion, even for that core nucleus of the Expo. Because a lot of these guys hold that time in Portland so near and dear to them. And those relationships, once they're formed, they don't go anywhere. So I think that had a huge effect on the weekend going so well too. Just, sometimes you have one or two guys and, maybe they're in it for the payday, and there's nothing wrong with that because at the end of the day, it's a business. But it doesn't always work as well. And the feeling isn't always the same when you have guys that want to be there, want to see each other, want to see the fans. And that's what, somehow, and some of it was planning, but some of it was just like just everything going right that weekend, where the guys were just gelling and spending so much time together that kind of created the energy that fed off for the rest of the weekend.
Well, that's an amazing answer, man, and it's a politically correct answer too, because you kind of put over everybody, but you did it genuinely, Nick. So kudos to that.
But
it sounds like, and that sounds so awesome though, that all these guys get along, all these guys remember each other, all these guys had a great time with each other. It's it says a lot about that territory, I believe, going back there. Some territories may have been a little different, more cutthroat or something along those lines, and there it seemed like everybody seemed to get along and have a great time, and that's fantastic. And I believe we have one of those guests that were part of the Portland Wrestling Expo. He has joined us at this point in time.
Well, who could that be? Q Kenny Loggins.
Who is that masked man? Oh, I don't want to get hit with the copyright, so we'll just skip the music. But we can introduce, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Here he is, the one and only. Welcome, Top Gun, to the program.
Great to be on here. I mean, hey, y'all talking Expo, and it was the greatest Expo, ever. And, well, one of the only times ever in Portland, but one of the best I've ever been to, all over the world.
And Top Gun, we were just saying that, I've run conventions before. I've been involved in conventions before, but one of the things that made the Expo so special is the connection that the core of talent, the core of the boys that were in town that we can have with each other. Yourself, with Ricky Santana, with the Grappler, with Nord, with Mike Miller. You guys were hanging around each other outside of the convention, which is not something that you see often at conventions. Like, you guys are grabbing breakfast and, grabbing beers together. Can you talk about seeing all your buddies again and reuniting in Portland, and, maybe just a few special moments that you had the weekend?
Well, it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for you. But it was so great because, like, wouldn't have got to see Mike. I talked to him every now and then on the phone, and seeing Nord, and seeing Lenny's my right-hand man, and Ricky Santana. And we talk all the time, me, Lenny, and Ricky Santana, and me and Mike every now and then. Seeing C.W. Bergstrom and Mood Dog Moretti and John Nord, and the list goes on and on. And it was so good because I wouldn't have, I always say that, even when I go to CAC, first time I went, I seen so many people that I never would have seen if I had never gone there. And it was the same way, reconnecting there in the Northwest with all those other legends, and then with some, newer talent and stuff like that. But getting to be there in Portland, and in the great wrestling fans, because, there's great wrestling fans everywhere. But Portland, I always say it, and so does Ricky Santana, Portland and Houston had the best wrestling fans. Especially Portland, had such a way of the people connected with us, because there was only 12 of us on the roster at one time. And that's the way Don Owens ran Don Owens Portland Wrestling. And connecting with some of those fans that came up and said, "Oh man, I used to watch you when you were this and when you were that, and you don't know how much you made my childhood days and my teenage days and all that." And it was like, that in itself makes it worth so much to be part and being part of that Portland Wrestling Expo.
Top Gun, you were a big part of the entire weekend. I said the core of you, Grappler and Nord, being involved in pretty much all the events. You and Grappler, of course, being involved in the Battle Royal, which is there was a show that promoted. They ran a show right before the technically the expo started, but they were a big part of the weekend in the sense that they added wrestling to the weekend. Why don't we kind of go through the weekend with you, Top Gun, and we'll start with that the Battle Royal to kind of kick off the weekend. Of course, run by our friends at the Northwest Expo, Friday, 6 p.m. bell time, and away the weekend went. But what are your memories of that?
So here we go. We're in that Battle Royal, and top legends in it were me and Grappler, and the rest were younger guys, and just, and it was great just to be part of that. And it kicked off good. Bottom line is the people got to see one heck of a show. And then afterwards to be on do the one-man show with the Grappler, part of the comedy.
You were, of course, the surprise guest, Top Gun, to the Grappler's Pro Wrestling Road Stories, which I consider the real kickoff of the weekend. And, of course, it is always good to see you guys together, but to see you guys together in the ring, telling jokes, telling stories. We had a couple of cameos, including that young lady back there that was
that was my cue right there. The real surprise guest was Fantasy heckling the two legends there. And besides, I don't mean to cut in just for a couple of minutes, but I just wanted to say thank you for having me up there, supported, help out. It was a tremendous event, very well organized, put together, great attendance. We had a lot of fun. And besides the memories, we brought back this replica title signed by all the guys in the back. It smeared a little, but that's still very, very valuable.
The guy that loaned me that pin for the guys that signed it, I blame it on him.
Oh, geez, that's a low blow, Top Gun.
Was that you?
Oh, that might have been me. That might have been me he's talking about, ladies and gentlemen. That might be me.
I know there's a lot of Portland wrestling fans out there, and not everybody had the opportunity to attend. But we just want to let them know that they still have a piece of the action by this Top Gun shirt, and I'll model the back there. Everybody. And also, hey, cheap plug. What can I say? I learned. And then this title is also up for sale, but I didn't mean to interrupt. I just had to get my 2 cents.
You got to stay here, Miss Top Gun.
Okay.
We appreciate that, Fantasy. Thank you so much. And the shirts, by the way, those are remakes of the original Top Gun shirt, correct?
Yes, they sure are. And right now, if anybody, I know this, we're talking about this, but anybody can get them for $20.
Only $20. Wow. How can they get that, Top Gun?
Well, they'd have to go to Cuban Worldwide at AOL.
So that's on Facebook, or let you know. Whichever.
Yeah, or let you know, whichever,
I think we'll be able to get a link. Our man Ray, not only is he the true host of the podcast, he's also the brains behind the technical parts of it. I know he'll be able to find a way to link that, so anyone that's watching the video right now, really cool Top Gun shirt. And on the back, it has Top Gun's many accolades, or allocades, as Lex Luger may say.
Yeah, allocades. Getting back to the fans of the Northwest, they're such unique fans, so good. They really stand behind their wrestling. Somebody should have. So I had seen Red the other day because there's somebody that has all the old Portland wrestling matches. Somebody said somebody should get an hour of Portland wrestling, replay all those matches.
They looked, when you watch those old tapes, they were so engaged and so involved in everything that was going on, and so behind their favorite wrestlers, and it's really fun to watch.
Question for you, Top Gun. Now, was there anyone you saw on this most recent trip to the Northwest for the Expo that maybe you hadn't seen since they were sitting first row or second row, yelling for you, or maybe someone you bumped into but hadn't seen in a while? Was there any one specific?
There was a lot of females that came to the matches.
Sure.
Now my age, And they would say, "You don't remember me?" And they would show me a picture with me. And I would go, "Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I do. Yeah." I did see a couple of older fans that used to go every week. I've seen a lot of fans that used to go every single week, but there was most of them, God bless, are gone.
This one particular young man, I remember he was telling you that he used to be a big fan. And if he did his homework or he did what he was supposed to do, his chores, he was allowed to watch wrestling. What was really good to see was there was not just the old fans were there, but there was this second generation that, grew up with that. And they came to relive a little bit of their past. And it was just amazing.
They would bring up, remember when you were wrestling Buddy Rose? And, and remember when Rip the Crippler Oliver, God bless them all, and remember when Roddy Piper and I climbed up the back of the crow's nest because they were getting ready to jump Roddy Piper, the grappler, and somebody. And I said, well, Roddy, I'm not going to come up the stairs. I'm going to climb up the back of the cage still, right? Like the right one up to the crow's nest. Roddy said, do you think you're going to be able to do that? I said, well, once I start, I ain't going to have no choice but to get it done. And I did it. And man, all of a sudden, like Roddy sold it, there I was back to back with him, and we were faced off with it. And then he turned around to look at me to make sure I wasn't going to double cross him. But those are the excitement of some of the stuff that went on in Portland wrestling.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, Ray, you have anything for us?
Actually, you beat me to the question if he recognized any of the fans from years gone by. So that was my big question. I was just curious.
Yeah.
I mean, because you had a lot of miles on the road after that through WCW and beyond. So I wasn't sure how well you might remember, because you were in Portland for quite a while, though. But yes. I wasn't sure if some of the fans I remember. Oh my God, it's been 30 plus years since I've seen these fans. It's just amazing that you guys captivated people like that to where they waited for you guys to come back. It took 35 years for some people to come back, maybe longer.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and Don Owens used to always, anywhere I went, Don Owens told me, you got an open door policy here. I don't care where you're at. They tell you you're finishing up and you don't have a place to go, you call me. And I did it a few times. I called them and I had a job with, one time I got my notice in the Carolinas for Crockett's promotion. And I called Don Owens and he said, no, you start this Saturday. This was like on a Monday.
Wow.
And I said, this Saturday? And he goes, yeah. So I went back and I had to tell Dusty Rose, I said, Dusty, I got to wait a month. I start this Saturday in Portland. Oh, baby, you're going to leave me now like that? I said, no, I ain't leaving you. You told me I had a month to get out of here. Because, I had this, and I took Don Owens up on that a lot of times.
You leave when I tell you to, baby.
Yeah. Don used to say, one time he got so mad, he said, well, you can't stay here forever. So I took it like a hint. Okay, maybe he's telling me I need to go in the next couple of months, right? So I had come home to Florida for something, and I got hot, and I had a starting date in for here. Florida came back. I said, Don, I'm in a month. I'm leaving. I'm going to Florida. He goes, for Christ's sake, Don always went off on me. He said, when I said that, I meant you had another year and a half. You had to leave. And I said, oh. I said, well, I'm sure I'll be back. And I did, you know what I mean? I can't wait. I got a lot of people that have asked. I was telling Nicholas that, and they have asked, when are y'all going to do this again, And a lot of fans that were there, I hope you do this again, And it's, you did something right when the people were asking, are y'all going to do this again? I hope you're going to do this again, all that. And I think it was because everybody was so professional and it was held so professionally done.
Yeah, it was very well put together.
And the people don't forget stuff like that one put together.
There you go,
like
Nick.
Wow.
Got put over by Top Gun, Nick.
Hey.
Hey, You just won the Northwest title.
Well, now, Top Gun. I know that you may have a friend that's a part of the next Portland Wrestling Expo, whenever that may be. But to anyone listening, what would Top Gun say to someone that isn't sure if they may want to attend the next Portland Wrestling Expo? What would he say to someone that might be on the fence? Maybe they missed the first one and not sure if they want to go to the second one. How would Top Gun
say this? I would say this. You don't want to miss. If you miss the first one, you definitely don't want to miss the next one. Because I'm sure it's going to be loaded with more legends and even more excitement in the air, as Don Owens would say there in Don Owens Sports Wrestling. And I know that if it's done by someone like you, Nick, and it's done the right way, and then you'll get a bunch of new superstars, and maybe you'll bring a couple of the ones that were already there. And, but I say for those people, they should start already bothering you because they should as soon as possible because that's how good it was.
Yep. And it's, you're talking about an era that will be remembered for a very, very long time and is known worldwide and nationwide and worldwide. And, realistically speaking, except for Top Gun, of course, we're all getting older and you aren't going to be around forever. So you gotta take that opportunity when you can, because none of us is promised tomorrow. And so, we should do it very, very soon.
Yeah. And one thing about Portland wrestling is everybody that was somebody came through Portland. Rick Martel to Kurt Hennig to Roddy Piper to the list so goes on and on. I mean, the Bushwhackers, the AK, the Sheep Herders, which Luke was there, God bless Fletch. There's so many stars that came through there and then went on to become even more bigger stars, either went on to WWF or / WWE, went on to WCW or,
You guys really paved the way for a lot of stars, that came after you. And you just don't get the opportunity a lot like that. I mean, you get a lot of events and you get, the band of usual suspects, so to speak, because a lot of the events are, held and a lot of the same people attend. But this was something very unique, very unusual, very special. And we hope, we look forward to the next one.
I don't know if Top Gun can't be there. He's got an older brother that can be there.
I think in case we don't see that ever loving good guy that's fighting for everything that's right, we could see his older brother that has fought for what's right, but maybe has a little bit of a dark side too. Well, Top Gun, Mrs. Top Gun, aka Fantasy, I want to thank you so much for joining us and reminiscing about the first Portland Wrestling Expo. And I know that we're going to have news for the second Portland Wrestling Expo in the week.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to it. I thank you.
Yeah.
And Ray, is it Roy?
Ray, that's right.
I thank you, and I thank you, Nick. And like I said, hey, if the next Portland Wrestling, you gotta be there because you don't want to miss out. And I don't care if you're from other state or whatever, anywhere in the country, you want to come and you see what Portland Wrestling was all about, and you get to meet all these legends. You get to enjoy, take pictures, do everything in the book. And it's the best thing going today.
Oh, of course. Always great having you both on. And it's always good seeing you. I know I'm going to see you guys. I'm definitely going to see you, Paula. I may see another family member of yours, Top Gun, in the next few weeks in Florida. So looking forward to seeing you.
Yeah, you sure will.
I'm everywhere.
She'll be there. And there you're going to see my cousin and my brother. Okay.
Have a great night, guys. Thanks for spending some time with us.
Thanks so much, guys. Have a great night.
Ray, having not only Top Gun with us to talk about the expo, also his close friend, Mrs. Top Gun, aka Fantasy. It was great. I always love seeing Top Gun and all of his family members at the various shows that we promoted over the last few years. And I think he did a great job of talking about the fans and maybe some of the people that he hadn't seen in 30 plus years. And one funny thing, and he brought it up briefly, some of the female fans that he may or may not have seen at the expo. I could tell you, once again, as someone who has run a good amount of shows in different parts, I had more female fans in the mailbox trying to get tickets or suggesting certain talents for the Portland Wrestling Expo than probably any other convention I've run.
Wow,
so,
that tells me that Portland must have been a really fun territory back in the day.
The Pacific Northwest weather must have led to some harmony after the matches. But
interesting shenanigans.
Sooner rather than later, Ray, we're going to be on here talking about PWE number 2, and I'm going to break news first when it happens right here, the Captain's Corner podcast, which is exclusively on the WrestleCopia Podcast Network.
And you got something else big coming up here. Now, last year, you guys were in Orlando talking about the first ever Glory Days GrappleCon, but now you guys are headed back to Lutz, or Lutz. I don't know. I've heard it pronounced different ways. Barry claims it's Lutz, so I'll just take it for his word. He's down there more than I am. And so Glory Days GrappleCon 2 is coming. Nick, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about that?
Yeah, like you said, crazy to think a year ago we were at the Rosen Center for Glory Days 1. And now, a year later, in just a couple of weeks, we're going to be back in Florida, this time right outside Tampa in a beautiful suburb that I was also told is called Lutz. I was pronouncing it Lutz for a long time. The Residence Inn has been renovated. It'll be the first show back there since CWF Legends Fan Fest that Barry ran, ceased existence. And we're going to be back with a bang. We are doing a WCW themed show. And from Arn Anderson to Nikita Koloff, the Stud Stable, Ming, so many great guests. And I think this show is so big, Ray, that we may want to have a standalone episode to kind of previewing everything that's going to be going on March 29th at the Residence Inn. How do you feel about that?
I think that's a fantastic idea. And usually we try to go bi-weekly, but we can definitely squeeze another one in next week or whenever you're available, Nick, to make sure that we put over everything upcoming. It's a hell of a show. I'm not just saying this either because I'm doing this podcast with you, but as you guys were announcing some of those names, if you gave me a piece of paper and told me to write down 10 names of guys that I would like to meet, while they're still, here and being able to speak with them and getting to hang out perhaps with them, there's a lot of names that are going to be at that show. It kind of blew my mind because I'm a huge fan of Robert Fuller, so AKA Colonel Rob Parker, Haku, the stories of Haku and things like that. Nikita Koloff, awesome, and Arn Anderson and lots of great names you guys have on this GrappleCon too. But yeah, just some of those names really stuck out to me, like of the legends that are still around. If you ask me, like, who would you like to meet? Who would you like to? Stan Hansen was definitely a bucket list for me last year, right? Sure. So, but this year, like I said, Robert Fuller, Jimmy Golden, Bunkhouse Buck, Haku. I mean, you guys got quite a few names.
Dirty Dutch Mantel. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Dutch. Yeah, I forgot about, that's right. How can I forget about Dutch? The storyteller himself.
Yeah, it's truly a fantastic lineup, and we'll go into a little more detail with Barry, of course, in the weeks to come. But March 29th is around the corner, so if you haven't bought your tickets yet, head over to Tixtree.com. Glory Days GrappleCon 2, March 29th, the Residence Inn, Tampa Suncoast Parkway in Lutz, Florida. It's going to be a fantastic show. Just like the expo, there's going to be events throughout the day. We promise you that you will get more than your money's worth. So if you were part of it last year in Orlando, a lot of people are coming back. There's some people making the first trip to Florida for the show. So whether you're a returnee, whether you're a first-timer, we think we got something for you at Glory Days GrappleCon 2.
Had absolutely a blast last year coming to the first one. And of course, Barry's run some CWF Fan Fest in the past down in Florida, but to get to watch you operate the way you operated, Nick, just absolutely professional. Between the two of you guys, it was a hell of a show, and you've had a year to prepare to work together again. So looking very much forward to hearing the stories coming out of that one. And hopefully we'll have Barry on here, like you said, and we can discuss it even further on the next episode.
I'm pretty sure between the two of us we can make that happen. Also got a big weekend coming up here at Captain's Corner, and of course, in between these conventions, we still have our weekly signings. We've got Captain's Corner favorite this weekend. He's going to be at the big event in New York from 10 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and that's at the Suffolk Credit Union Arena in Brentwood, New York, right on the Hofstra campus. Boris Zukov, one half of the Bolsheviks, former AWA World Tag Team Champion, my good comrade. And we've worked with Boris before. This is actually Boris's first time flying in 13 years. Wow. And he hasn't been in that New York area in 13 years. So that'll be cool having him come back. And he's also going to be joined by a Captain's Corner, someone making their debut. And this person spent time, a lot of time in the Kansas City area, but he did spend some time towards the end in the AWA. Of course, had a very good career in Mid-South and the UWF. At one point, he was JYD's Mid-South Tag Team Champion partner. And spent a little time in World Class. Some people know him as the Timekeeper, but a lot of people know him as Mike George. So
Mike George, the man with two first names, but don't tell him I said that.
I know, and what's funny is that the first time he called me, it came up George Michael, and I'm a big Wham fan, so I popped when I saw George Michael was giving me a call. I wish I could have screenshot it, but
Jitterbug.
Yeah, I like that. We used to play a little game with Jitterbug in the home. Wake Me Up Before You Go was a big hit with the kids. But Mike George will be with us. So next week we've got Mr. Olympia and Barry Windham. We're making our first appearance. We're working with the NWA, Billy Corgan's National Wrestling Alliance. Another first-time appearance in Dothan, Alabama. The captain is flying into Atlanta and then renting a car to drive over to Dothan, Alabama. And we're going to be a big part of the Hard Times pay-per-view, which is in Dothan. Barry Windham and Mr. Olympia are going to be doing a pre-show meet and greet, courtesy of Captain's Corner. So I'm really excited about that too. And then we have Glory Days after that. So this is probably easily my biggest 3-week period in, 6 months or more. So
I'll see.
I'm keeping busy. I know you're keeping busy, Ray. Why don't you let everyone else know what's going on the WrestleCopia Podcast Network?
Well, we've got a lot of great podcasts going on. The Wrestling Memory Grenade, Regional Wrestling, lots of great new projects over at Regional Wrestling. We're covering 1977 in Memphis, the Jarrett Goulas split, breaking that down with Steve Crawford. Always having fun in 1985 Memphis with Gene Jackson. That's become more of a comedy bit than it has been an informational show at this point. But when Dr. D is proclaiming that Jerry Lawler has AIDS, you can't do anything but laugh. But no, we just got a lot of things going on. But most importantly right now, it's the Patreon. It's helping pay the bills to keep us doing what we're doing right now. And that's patreon.com/WrestleCopia, and all the great video casts that we've been bringing to you, part of the VIP Superfan tier, whether it's Dan Ginnity and the Pearl Wrestling Academy video cast, covering right now 1975-76 All Japan, the earliest known match on foot in its existence, beginning to end, Dusty Rhodes and Harley Race. We just covered lots of great matches with Jack Briscoe, then world champion, Dory Funk Jr. Lots of fun stuff there. The Coliseum video cast, again, just a fun time with Gene Jackson. And this week, we're going to be launching the Monday Warfare video cast. Going to go back in time and relive and go and to talk about the matches in the ring, as well as everything going on behind the scenes. And of course, those pesky TV ratings coming to the Monday Warfare video cast. So lots going on in the world of WrestleCopia.
I'm honored just to be a part of that WrestleCopia Podcast Network. So much good stuff going on, Captain's Corner. So much good stuff going on at the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Thank you for supporting Captain's Corner. Thank you for supporting the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Ray, I think it's time to take it home and get ready for to bring the charter back.
Well, it sounds very good to me. Hopefully I can drink on the boat ride. I hear as long as you're not driving, you can have a couple beers. That's the rule anyway. So I guess it is time. We'll say goodbye. We'll be back soon. Barry Rose apparently going to be part of the show. Looking forward to that as we talk all about the Glory Days GrappleCon 2. Thanks a lot, Nick.
Cheers to the working man.